she found herself in the familiar empty field. The grass beneath her feet was the consistency and color of straw, and crunched underneath her feet, as though an extremely hot sun had burnt there for months. She bent down to examine it and saw through a gap in the grass that the sand was dry and almost like beach sand in consistency. Even if it were to rain, she doubted that the grass would have benefited, as it seemed as though the water would simply filter through the sand. There was not even a breath of wind, yet the air was warm and the clouds above moved at a terrific speed. The sky was a hue of purple, with the clouds being shades of orange and pink. Strange colors for the sky, she thought. She looked into the distance, but all she could see was this land, devoid of topography and life. Could this be the same place as before? Before in her dream? It certainly looked similar. She reminded herself that this was all a dream, but could feel the pain of the hardened grass on her bare feet and the warmth of the air on her skin. Walking cautiously, she looked down as her feet crunched on the grass. She could feel the pain of the straw-like grass piercing her skin. She stopped in pain and looked up to see if she could at least see any other forms of life. She remembered from before that there was a figure in the distance. She squinted. She squinted her eyes in an attempt to see across the land. Suddenly in front of her, a few meters away, stood the young girl dressed in plain white dress which ended at her knees. She had straight, black hair which reached her shoulders and seemed to move slightly in a non-existent breeze. Sian remembered that the girl had been smiling and giggling previously, but her expression this time was of pain. Both her knees were bleeding from abrasion wounds, as if she had recently fallen and scraped them both. The two stood patiently and looked at each other, each waiting for the other to react. "Are you all right?" Sian said. The girl just looked up at her, face devoid of all emotion. "What is your name, sweetheart?" Sian asked. The girl stared at her, hatred in her eyes, blood dripping slowly down her knees and shins. Sian started to walk towards her, hoping to be of some assistance to her. She had no idea what she could do for this girl, yet she desperately wanted to try to make her smile and giggle again, like before. There didn't seem to be any water around, so she couldn't wash her wounds, and she was sure that dabbing them would make them sting most probably, but she felt an overwhelming need to help her. Ignoring the pain of the grass, she walked further towards her until she was an arm's length away from the girl. The girl didn't break eye contact or move. Sian could see that the girl was barefoot as well, and must have been so for some time, as her toes were blackened. The fingers of the girl were dirty, and her knuckles bore bloody abrasions as well as bruises. Her skin was dry and damaged, with exposure to the elements not soft and supple as before, and her lips were dry and cracked. There was dirt trapped in the corners of her eyes, and dark smudges ran down her face as if tears had dried there long ago and she hadn't washed her face since. "Are you all right? Is there something I can do to help?" Sian asked. The girl just looked at her with intensely dark eyes and seemed to be studying Sian. The girl mouthed words but didn't utter a sound. "I can't understand you," Sian pleaded. "I really want to help you. Please, let me help you. What do you need?" Once again, the words were mouthed, but no sound crept over her lips. Sian tried to touch her, but pain surged down her body as she did, as if she was shocked by putting her finger in an electrical socket. "Oh!" Grasping her hand, Sian rubbed the excess pain away and turned to face the girl, puzzled. Sound rasped from the girl's throat, and Sian stared at her, beckoning her to speak. It sounded as if the girl was being strangled and fought through it to speak. "Help me," the girl said slowly, in a strange voice that also seemed to echo around inside Sian's skull. "That is what I intend to do, my darling. Just please tell me how," Sian pleaded. "Help me," the girl rasped again, face void of emotion. Out of sheer desperation, Sian touched the girl's shoulder and once again received a pain so severe she cried out. "Help me," the girl rasped again, and a tear ran from her eye and dropped from her chin onto the ground. Blood lay where the tear had fallen, and a feeling of dread overcame Sian. "My darling, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do," Sian pleaded. But the girl kept on rasping those same words repeatedly. Sian started to weep out of sheer frustration. "There's nothing I can do for you. I'm sorry." The girl turned her head slowly and looked at Sian. "Help me." The words were desperate and clearer this time. Her white dress started glowing brighter, and fear consumed the girl's face. "I can't help you. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do," Sian said, as if in a panic. The girl's eyes started to glow, and blood started trickling out of her mouth. She started shaking as if she were having convulsions in an upright position, and a choking sound came out of her, as if she were fighting for air. Sian could see that the girl was rank with fear and desperation, and felt every pain and emotion that the girl felt. "I'll do anything," Sian said. "Please, just stop this. I can't take seeing you suffer like this." The girl looked at her and stopped all movement. She let out a shrill scream that threatened to deafen Sian, and Sian covered her ears in pain. The landscape burst into fire, a fire that threatened to consume her, but she didn't feel the heat of it. The fire was affecting the girl, though, and she screamed even louder when her dress burst into flames and the fire blistered her skin. Her skin sizzled as she writhed and screamed in agony. Her hair combusted, and Sian could smell the pungent stench of burning flesh. Vomiting where she stood, Sian could hear the soft tissue inside the girl popping and sizzling, which only made her retch more violently. Silence suddenly covered them like a blanket. And looking up to see if the nightmare had ended, Sian froze at the gruesome sight that was in front of her. She gasped as the burning skull of the girl came towards her and stopped millimeters from her face. She could hear the flesh sizzle and feel the heat of the skull on her skin. Cartea. That was the last thing she remembered before screaming herself awake, that one single word filling her ears, piercing into her skull. She opened her eyes and saw Iago sitting on a chair staring at her from the other end of the room. It was dawn, and the first wisps of sunlight were fighting for dominance in the room. "You are ready to know the truth now," he said. Iago led her, still shaking, to the kitchen. He sat her on the chair, boiled the kettle, and started making his concoction, as Sian liked to call it. Sian recognized the small glasses and knew that they would contain some sort of alcohol, but she didn't complain. She could hardly speak, let alone complain. After the drink was made, he gathered Sian again and placed her on a sofa in his room. He wrapped a thick blanket around her and coaxed some drink into her. She drank more than she should have at one time and coughed uncontrollably as a result. "In small amounts, Sian. We don't want you choking now, do we?" Sian turned to him, cheeks red with embarrassment, and smiled weakly. "Now," he started, "tell me what you saw." Sian began to object, but Iago simply smiled and stroked her face, quieting her. "While it's still fresh in your mind, Sian, I need every detail. It's highly important." Sian closed her eyes and decided to tell him everything. "I haven't exactly been honest with you, Iago. I had a similar dream before I came to the town, in the car, in fact, while I was driving, but it wasn't a nightmare like this." Shaking uncontrollably, Sian told him of the grass, the sky, finding herself suddenly barefoot, and the girl. She described the girl in perfect detail. She told him the difference of the first dream, where the girl was happy and smiling and giggling, and how it differed from this dream, where she was dirty and bleeding and riddled with hatred. She told him of what she said and the way she sounded and the pain she felt when she touched the girl. The blood, the fire, the skull. Cartea, I still remember the word so clearly, yet I have no idea what it means. It means book in Romanian. Book? Why would she say the word book? Sian, what you're going to hear is going to threaten your sanity, and I need you to be strong. Sian looked at him. bracing herself for